Hello. In this clip from our Justia webinar, From Billable Hours to Sustainable Income, The Power of Subscription Models Plus AI, Mathew Kerbis covers a wide variety of AI tools available for law firms while offering his views and tips on prompt engineering. If you want to see more Justia videos on law practice and legal marketing, be sure to subscribe to our channel.
But still, very creative. So here are some tools, and I'm just going to open up all these right now so we could talk about them. So here's a bunch of AI tech. You've got these tools do a lot of different things. And I have a presentation just dedicated to legal tech tools. I can't list all of them here, but suffice to say I maintain a spreadsheet, and we're into the 80s now of different Gen AI tools, both general use and legal specific. There are far more tools purporting to be legal specific AI than general use. You'll see at the bottom right here of this slide, those are like the general use tools, right? ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, Copilot if you're a Microsoft user, and Perplexity, which is the answer engine you're looking for. So if you thought ChatGPT was going to replace Google, well, if you pay for the $20 a month and you could access the internet, it kind of does this too, but for free, and they have a paid feature. Perplexity is that answer engine. So when you type in a question to Google, if you're a lawyer watching this, and you probably are, then maybe like me, before you used to start a legal research project, before you'd go to one of the legal research tools, you would just ask Google, see if anything came up in a search result. And it was usually like a lawyer blog wrote about it. Now, the layperson would not appreciate, is it the right jurisdiction? Is it the right statute? These types of things, and ask the right questions. So even with Google, that's why lawyers didn't get replaced when the internet and search engines came around. But as a lawyer, we're able to figure out, okay, so I asked that question, this lawyer blog, that's not relevant. It's a different jurisdiction, or that's not the fact pattern that I'm looking for with that blog. And we could kind of get a sense of, okay, well, this lawyer's blog article is more on point. It cites these statutes. I'm going to start my legal research with those statutes instead of completely starting from blank, and then identify whether that's right? Well, what Perplexity does is it reads all those websites, synthesizes an answer for you, and it will also re-prompt your question or your prompt into a better version of the prompt or question that you were asking for. So if you're like, I can't learn prompt engineering, a lot of these AI tools now, they're starting to do versions of this. Well, it will take your prompt, run it through all the past prompts that were good or bad, and based on its training and guardrails and all that, and it will improve your prompt and make it better. Some also suggest prompts. Paxton does this, the tool at the top left. Well, Perplexity analyzes all these search results, synthesizes them into an answer. And you do this for non-legal stuff too. I just go to Perplexity now, unless I'm looking for a company's website or something specifically from the company, in which case I'll go to Google to find it. If I have a question, like how do you get red wine out of a white dress or something, go to Perplexity, and it will synthesize a really good answer from you based on search results on the internet. And we're lawyers, we're going to love that. You're going to love this part. Give you citations, right? And so we'll have multiple citations from where it synthesized its answer from. So if you do want to follow up and click on one of the citations to do a deep dive on that article or that website, you can. So it doesn't necessarily eliminate visiting websites. So for those of you who are law firm owners thinking, how is this going to work with SEO, and all that? I mean, people will still visit websites for deeper, more information. I don't think that's going anywhere. But you can get your answer a lot quicker with a tool like Perplexity. So if you forget everything else I'm going to say, start working in Perplexity into what you're doing. So that's enough for the general tools right now, because I talk about it all day. These other tools do different things, right? So Paxton is a legal AI assistant, and there's several of these out there. LawDroid you could kind of leverage in a similar way as Paxton for certain things for legal AI, being a legal AI assistant. But they do different things. So Paxton, you're able to even connect videos and ask it to analyze videos. They did this so lawyers who are in regulatory industries that are heavily regulated, that have SEC hearings or C-SPAN meetings, you could query against these long videos that are just on YouTube or other video sources. I think I really only use links. I use Paxton. I don't really use any other links other than YouTube. So that's a cool distinguishing factor. And they have different versions of drafting, document analysis, and research in their modules. And they have a lot of other things, but it's sort of this all-encompassing legal AI assistant. LawDroid has those features too, and with regard to using AI for legal research and statutes and all that stuff. What LawDroid can help you do is you could also build your own like Gen AI chatbot tool, which you could either use for in the way that other law firms have leveraged AI chatbots in the past. But what I think is a really clever use of this, and I think there are some other tools out there that you could do this too. I know you could do with LawDroid, is you could build like a Gen AI legal assistant that your clients can access. Now, you can't give a legal advice through this thing, right? You'd want to make sure the guardrails are set up to let them know, but it could be a subscriber benefit. So we're going to talk about the subscription model in the second half of the presentation. And that could be a really valuable subscriber benefit. Case text, co-counsel, Lexis Plus AI, these are more traditional legal research tools. Clear Brief is one about making your briefs better, right? And analysis for that. Spellbook has helped an AI tool that helps you leverage Gen AI to draft legal documents, and in particular, I think a focus on litigation. GC AI is a tool specifically built for in-house teams. Another one not on here, but Responsive AI without the E, Responsive without the E AI. They are like a legal research tool specifically for in-house counsel. So you've got those two AI products that are designed for in-house attorneys. What GCAI amazed me with is when I played around with the tool, it was the first AI tool to ask me questions back for more clarifying questions to make sure that the answer that it gave me was a more correct answer, or whatever it drafted or whatever it did. And there are even things in that tool that you could like put in like the aspects about your company or divisions of a company so that you could click on those so it doesn't always have to ask you these clarifying questions. But the way that they have designed their tool, leveraging other AI models, it's a way that lawyers, we're used to, hey, if you had an associate sitting in front of you or giving them instructions on what to do, which is how you should use these tools, by the way, the same way you work with staff or other attorneys, they'd ask you questions back, clarifying questions. Well, GCAI does that, which is pretty incredible. Parrot HQ and Scribe, I should probably move those closer together. They are leveraging AI for transcripts and depositions in ways that make that process more efficient and more valuable, even like live deposition things from what I understand. Speed Legal and Legalon do contract analysis, so that red, yellow, green flag type analysis, but now powered by Gen AI. Hyperdraft is sort of in that category, but they have less focus on the Gen AI aspect of it, at least in their marketing materials. And Even Up, there's more of these coming up, but I haven't had a chance to play with any of these tools. Even Up uses Gen AI to analyze very specifically in the area of personal injury and medical malpractice, so medical records, and it analyzes databases on past settlement results and what case, to the extent that that's publicly available, and judgment award amounts for similar type use cases. And the goal is get like personal injury style and medical malpractice style cases to end results faster. So even up the score for those sides. And frankly, it could save, if you're a personal injury attorney, you can't probably charge a third anymore if you're leveraging this kind of a tool, which eventually clients will demand. And if you're an insurance defense attorney who bills by the hour, like this is going to potentially eliminate the time it takes for cases to resolve, right? So we have to start thinking about other ways and other types of value that we could give our clients when leveraging these tools, right? And there are more tools that are hyper-specific, like Even Up is to a particular area of law. And the benefit to that is there's additional training of these models or layers on top of these models and guardrails implemented. Sometimes they're called GPT wrappers if they're just leveraging ChatGPT or whatever advanced version of it there is at the time. At the time of this recording, it's GPT 4.0 or 4.0, I think they're calling it. So moving right along to some prompt engineering tips like this, I sort of got into this a little bit. I got ahead of myself. Leverage Gen AI like it's a super powered personal assistant, like an actual human. Like think of it as a human, the way you're interacting with it, right? Direct it like you direct an associate or a staff person. Here are some examples. And these are bare bones prompts that you could use, but you will get decent results with these. You could always get more specific, just like with a human. The more specific you are to a point, the better results you're going to get from that person doing work for you. You can provide too much detail to a human. You could do the same thing with AI. So these are good starting points. You can be more specific, and you could do sequential prompting is another way to be more specific. So you could start broad and narrow it down with sequential prompting if these AI tools allow you to do that. I'm a big fan of sequential prompting. The way I used to conduct legal research before I had Gen AI is I would just search something like, in quotes, insurance. And I would get every single insurance case, and then I would narrow it by jurisdiction and search and do search within results using Boolean terms. Well, I kind of take a similar methodology with Gen AI and sequential prompting, but I have seen some people give like paragraphs and paragraphs of an initial prompt. That's the one way to do it. I like to do sequential prompting with more and more specificity. So here's an example. Review this document and summarize it for me. Distill the 3 most persuasive arguments and explain why. And then if you get that explanation why, and maybe you agree with it, great. If you don't agree with it, explain why you don't agree with it and have it argue back with you. So you could, peel back those layers and understand it. Put all the deadlines and dates in a table with explanations and obligations next to the date. So I use this prompt more so for contracts, for contractual obligations, but I'd be curious to know if somebody was able to do this. Now GPT-4o lets you translate images of things right into something like this. So scan or take a picture of a case management conference order with all these dates and stuff and like put it into a table. Like I'd be curious to see how that looks. Analyze these 3 cases, synthesize them in 3 paragraphs, and list in bullet points the differences between the facts of each case. You're probably going to want a larger context window for this one, or legal AI that is leveraging larger context windows. One of the things I like about Paxton too, and some other AI models or some other AI companies are saying they do this too. They have in addition to plugging and playing with Claude, Gemini, ChatGPT, these other models, they have their own proprietary legal large language model that they will use as well. So those, these proprietary models, at least I find, do a better job than just leveraging these other LLMs. So going back to the billable hour not working anymore, you'll have results in seconds or minutes compared to hours or days. If you were to give these, this last prompt example to an associate, like see at the end of the week with this, right? So here are some broad tips. Written, spoken, natural language is the interface. So if you're on the more experienced side of practicing law and you hated having to learn all these newfangled ways to interface with the technology, learn a whole bunch of additional jargon and clicking and all that, and where to save and download things or whatever, well, welcome to the world of Gen AI. It understands you in the same way that you're interacting with another human being, natural language. And with GPT-4o, we could speak to it now. If you saw the Apple presentation, Apple Intelligence, Siri is being super powered with AI, and we could talk to it, and it will actually be like interfacing with these things in written text. But we're lawyers. We're masters of written word, right? And so we're actually, I find that lawyers, once they start to wrap their heads around it, are some of the absolute best prompt engineers, those of us who are interfacing with this technology. And even if prompt engineering goes away in the form that it's in now, being able to appreciate and understand what is valuable, good input into these tools and being able to evaluate the output, that's where the highest value of being an attorney, a subject matter expert, I would even go so far to say any industry that could be disrupted by AI, that's where our value is. But that doesn't take a lot of time. So, I mentioned it earlier, right? This can be a subscriber or client benefit. These AI tools, if you are taking the approach with like a Harvey or a Leia or one of these tools where they'll come in and you're building a model, an in-house model, you're going to have to keep your data in a smart place and categorize it correctly, and for a solo like me, I'm going to use off-the-shelf tools. I'm not going to train a model, but for larger firms, this is something you're going to want to think about. And then there's 2 different ways you could approach this here. The subscriber benefit, which I just mentioned above, and it's accessed, that model has access to the way that you've previously responded to clients. Now, you'd have to be super careful to make sure that there are guardrails and training set up so that these tools, and you'd work with the vendors on this, right? To make sure that one client can't get the information of another client, and there are ways to do this, right? But less risky is an internal firm version. And you're seeing some of these big giant law firms like Denton's that are building their own proprietary models. Like this is one of the ways that they're using it, right? We're like, now I have like a law firm with client data specific, and it's trained on all the client data because it can be, because everyone in the firm can get access to that with some exceptions with, some conflicts and stuff. How that's going to be sorted out, I'm sure they're working on that. Bigger the firm, the bigger the problems. But for maybe mid-sized firms where there's fewer conflicts or none between attorneys and the types of cases they take on, that would be nice. Because then you could just have this superpower AI assistant that's trained on all the firm data. I mean, Copilot is kind of doing this with Microsoft Copilot. But as it relates to security and stuff for law firms, I think we're still up in the air a little bit about that. I found less so for these legal AI tools, but for the general tools, you could give it the power of persona, right? And you could still leverage both legal and general use tools. But give it some guard. Really, you're just giving it context when you're giving something a persona. Write it in the style of such and such famous author, or pretend you are a judge who is female, who went to this school, who practiced insurance defense for so many years before sitting on the bench for traffic court before becoming an appellate justice, and then analyze. Tell me if you think this is a strong argument or not, right? Like that type of power of persona. And they're phenomenal for non-legal tasks. And I would also say try using the legal-specific tools for the non-legal things as well. And in the same way that licensed attorneys find that they're good at politics or legislation or being CEOs of companies or doing other innovative things like, the whole recovering lawyer thing, being good entrepreneurs, like having a legal mind and legal training is useful for just being out there in the real world doing other not legal specific things. I think the same thing is true of these Gen AI tools trained for legal stuff. They actually do really good at the non-legal tasks. But just like it's good to have diversity of opinion amongst people, you'll yield better results. The same thing is true of these AI models. So while I do leverage legal specific AI models, I'm still using these other tools like Claude a lot and ChatGPT and Gemini. In Perplexity, I'm just not putting confidential client information in those tools, right? Because it's being trained on those things.
Thanks for watching. We hope you enjoyed this video. And if you did enjoy it, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more videos on law practice and legal marketing. See you in our next clip.